our 4 academics will present about the programs that they teach into, and that'll go for anywhere between 30 and 40 minutes. And then after that, we'll have plenty of time to answer all of your questions. So we encourage you to use the Q&A function, and we'll get to that towards the end. So again, many thanks for joining us. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Associate Professor Ben Hillman.
Thanks, James. And welcome everyone to tonight's webinar. Since we're such a small group, I would greatly encourage everyone to get on the chat, to make sure that you tell us who you are and what your interests are in graduate study at ANU, so that we can offer some more targeted information that will be beneficial to you. I am the Director of the Policy and Governance Program at Crawford, and we are home to a faculty of experts working on public policy challenges in Australia and across the region. We have several degrees that people can choose from: the Graduate Certificate of Public Policy, the Master of Public Policy, and the Master of Publication, Master of Public Administration. These are all degrees of different duration. The Graduate Certificate is a half-year, 1 semester, full-time. The Master of Public Policy is a 2-year full-time degree, and the Master of Public Administration is 1.5 years full-time equivalent. If you take a grad cert, this is a wonderful opportunity to dip your toe into graduate studies and get a taste for a range of different specialised areas. In the grad cert, you take 4 subjects. It's half a year, 1 semester, full-time equivalent, but you can obviously study part-time over a year or more. And you can take any course on offer across the entire Crawford School, whether your interests are in economic policy, international policy, in national security policy, or in the environment, climate change. There's a range of courses that you can choose from. Any 4 courses that you take from the Crawford School, and you will graduate with the graduate certificate. You can then, if you decide after taking the graduate certificate that you would like to go on and take a master's degree, you can then use all of those subjects as credit towards the subsequent master's degree. For those of you who, just before I talk about the Master of Public Policy, for those of you who are concerned that you might not meet the GPA cutoff for our degrees, the Graduate Certificate of Public Policy is an entry point where you can be admitted with less than the GPA cutoff scores, and then based on your performance in the graduate certificate, you can then be admitted to the Master of Public Policy. So it's an alternate pathway into the master's degrees. The Master of Public Policy is our flagship degree. It's a 2-year program that is designed to prepare public service, public sector leaders and managers with the skills and knowledge that they will need to excel in their career. It's not focused solely on APS, on government. It's focused on public sector writ large. Many of our graduates go into government, probably the majority, but we also have a number of graduates in the advocacy organisations, working for NGOs, international organisations, including UN agencies and other international organisations. As part of the degree, you join a really diverse student cohort from around the world. About half of our students are international, and about half are domestic. You will be able to develop, as part of the program, key expertise and knowledge in public policy, policy reform, and national and international governance. And you'll also be able to specialise across a range of policy specialisations: health, international policy, economic policy, social policy, policy analysis. 14 specialisations that are offered across the university. So one of the beauties of this degree is it's really situated at the centre of the university. You take the core, the compulsory units at Crawford, but then you can go on and specialise in a range of areas that are taught by schools and departments across the university. It's a 2-year degree, but for those of you who have a cognate undergraduate degree, political science, policy studies, development studies, sociology, public administration, economics, international relations, you'll automatically, and law, you'll automatically receive 24 points of credit. And if you have an honours degree or some other graduate experience, including possibly a graduate certificate that's relevant, you can earn as much as 48 units of credit towards this degree. One of the other advantages, if you're coming into this degree with very limited work experience, you're doing this to begin your career rather than to further your career, and we have students from both backgrounds, you can take a range of electives that are built around what we call work integrated learning, professional development courses, and they include applied policy research projects where you work as part of a team on projects, research projects for real world clients, including government departments and not-for-profit organisations. You can also undertake internships. We have 22 partner organisations, including government agencies at the federal and state level, and not-for-profit organisations where you can undertake an internship. Fantastic opportunity to do that for credit or not for credit, and it's something that you can put on your CV as professional experience when you're job hunting post-graduation. The Master of Public Administration is a related degree which focuses more on management and leadership. Master of Public Policy is focused a little more on the analytical side. But whichever degree you can take electives from each and other program. So whichever degree you choose, it really represents more of an inclination towards an analytical track in your public sector career, or an inclination towards a managerial, administrative, and leadership track. But what you'll see if you go online and you explore the degrees, you'll see that the core knowledge, the core skills of each degrees are focused along the lines I've just described, but then you can build specializations and electives on top of that core foundational knowledge in either degree that you take. We have redesigned both of these degrees. The Master of Public Policy was relaunched a couple of years back. The Master of Public Administration will be relaunched next year as a 72 unit. That's a 1.5 year full-time equivalent degree. And it introduces for the first time a range of master classes. These are half courses that are applied, and they've been designed around skills that the modern public sector manager and public sector leader needs. And it includes persuasion and influence, strategic policy making. We've got a course that I've designed new for next year on engaging with the People's Republic of China. How do you work with counterparts in the People's Republic of China. And this is an area of increasing importance for anyone working in Australia's public sector. So a range of interesting options and exciting options to undertake as part of this degree. Again, you can bring credit from previous studies into this degree. I might leave it at there for our programs, and I look forward to, I noticed some questions that have come up in the chat. I'll respond to those as I am able, and look forward to hearing more questions and joining you for discussion after the presentations. Thank you. And I'm going to hand over now, it looks like, to my colleague, Paul Burke.
Thank you very much, Ben, and hi everyone. Welcome to our virtual session. I'm an economist here at the Crawford School, and we have a very strong group of economists here, and we have two very interesting master's degree programs in economics offered from here at the Crawford School. First thing I just thought I'd start off with is why study economics at a public policy school like the Crawford School? Economics is about making better decisions in public policy, and it's providing one very strong disciplinary framework for thinking about how to make such decisions. And it's a great place to be, a public policy school, to work alongside our public policy colleagues and our colleagues focused on environmental management and other issues as well. A beauty about these courses is that there's the potential to take courses from different fields. So under this degree, it's possible to take courses from public policy offerings, from environment offerings, and so on. It's also great to be in Canberra as an economist, because there are lots of economists down here, and economics is quite important for public policy decision-making in Australia. The head of Treasury, the Secretary of Treasury, has a PhD in economics from ANU, and many other top public officials also have backgrounds at some point in economics. I just thought I'd mention even Arnold Schwarzenegger has a major in economics. So economics can be cool too. At our school, we are offering several offerings in terms of being able to take economics. So first of all, we have the Graduate Certificate of Public Policy. And as Ben mentioned, under the Graduate Certificate, it's possible to take courses from across the school. It's possible to complete the Graduate Certificate in one semester full-time. And the idea with the Graduate Certificate is it also can provide you with the platform to launch into a full master's degree. So the credit that you obtain for the Graduate Certificate can be used to go on to master's study. Under the grad certificate, you can take units in economics. We also offer 2 master's degrees in economics here at the Crawford School. The first one is the Master of Environmental and Resource Economics. This is a very applied economics master's degree, focusing on some of the biggest challenges that we face as a society. So if you're thinking about climate change or deforestation or water mismanagement in the Murray-Darling Basin, then this is a very useful degree for you. Under the Master of Environmental Resource Economics, you will take courses in microeconomics, in environmental economics, in energy economics, and many potential elective choices as well. It's possible to gain credit for selected prior studies. So for example, if you have completed a graduate certificate elsewhere in economics, as an example, then it's possible to obtain credit for some of this degree. Environmental problems and resource management problems are growing in nature and also importance. So climate change has been an issue for decades, but it is one that is not going away. A lot of the solutions are ones that economists can provide advice on and help in the design of. So for example, an emissions trading scheme or a carbon pricing scheme or a water trading scheme in the field of resource management. All of these types of approaches are built on an economic basis. So doing this type of course is very useful if you're interested in a career either in the government or in a consulting company or in research in the field of environmental and resource economics. Our second Master's in Economics degree is the Master of International and Development Economics. Under this degree, you learn to apply analytical frameworks for various settings. So for thinking about international trade, finance, for thinking about macroeconomic management in developing countries and emerging economies, foreign aid and development as well. Under this degree, it's possible to specialize according to one of 5 specializations: development policy, economies of Asia and the Pacific, international trade and finance, macroeconomic policy, or microeconomic policy. So just for example, economies of Asia and the Pacific. We have a course on the Chinese economy, which is a very popular course. And it's a very key economy in the region and globally as well. The beauty of sitting within the College of Asia and the Pacific is that we have a lot of Asia-Pacific expertise, and we very much focus on applied economics that is relevant for the region. And we are sitting here in the Asia-Pacific. Also, for example, the development policy specialization, it's possible to take that one, and that could go on to a career working in a non-governmental organization, working in the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and so on. There's a lot of demand for public policy specialists, including economists with those types of skills. We also have a very diverse student cohort in our 2 economics master's degrees. So domestic students, and then also a good representation of students from around the region and further afield as well. After graduating, students go on to jobs in government departments, perhaps an international organization like the Asian Development Bank or the World Bank, a non-governmental organization, the private sector, including banking, and also research, including some students who go on to do a PhD as well. I'll hand it over there. I'm happy to answer any questions about economics or about our economics degrees. Thank you. And I'll hand over to you, Daniel, and you're just on mute.
Daniel, we just can't hear you. Do you mind just checking you're plugged in there?
Is that better?
Much better, thank you. That's clear.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. Yes, I'm Daniel Connell in the Resources, Environment and Development sort of section of the Crawford School. And I'm a political ecologist, and we're a very diverse group that's focused very definitely on the massive public policy challenges that relate to environmental issues and such as climate change, environmental degradation, the management of rivers, toxic waste, many other sorts of issues such as that. And the public policy environment that the Crawford School provides, we find is an excellent situation for people such as us, because we want to engage with the factors, the potential for bringing change in these really crucial areas for the future of the planet. We've got a number of different types of degrees, and a lot of the mechanics that's involved in the organization of our graduate certificate, for example, and our master's degrees are similar to the degrees that you've just been hearing about. But the things that I particularly want to emphasize in terms of our group is that we bring to this policy mix, in addition to people such as myself, geographers and anthropologists and all sorts of people such as that, And we have our own distinct contribution that we add to these national and international situations. Looking at the courses that we run, as you've already been hearing in the other areas, our staff have got very strong connections both here in Canberra, but also in the States and internationally. We're very much part of international networks, both research networks and policy networks. And I'd like to now sort of talk about these sort of various degrees in a bit more detail. So the graduate certificate. Now, this is an important entry point for people who want to just find out, whether or not this is their particular sort of area for future investigation. And it's a very good start for looking at a whole range of different issues. As in the earlier graduate certificates, it's a matter of doing 4 subjects in a semester if you're doing it full time, and it gives you the chance to select across a very wide area. And it's extremely flexible. Our people are extremely experienced in terms of dealing with online courses and online interactivity. I mean, one of the things that's very important to us, and this is true of all of our colleagues across the Crawford School, is the quality of the student experience. And that's one of the really distinctive things about the Crawford School, is the range of different types of people that you have in the classroom. We've got staff across the Crawford School that are international leaders in their various fields, but I know from personal experience that when you do a quick survey in any of our classrooms, it's just amazing the range of different skills, different interests, and different backgrounds that people will bring to these particular subjects. So looking at some of the subjects that we teach, it gives you an idea of the distinctive contribution that we make to the Crawford School. I mean, land rights and resource development. We've been hearing a lot about those sorts of issues in the Australian press, and we find that our students are able to investigate those issues in a wide range of different countries. One of the things that's very important for people working in the READ sort of area is a lot of our courses place a strong emphasis on providing opportunities for research options, which allow students to tailor their degrees towards their interests. And essentially, one of the big challenges with research, you can use it to prepare to do a PhD or something like that, but you can also think for yourself, in 2 years' time, 5 years' time, where do I want to be? What do I want to be doing with my life? Well, with a lot of our subjects, you get the chance to tailor the projects that you're going to work on to that particular interest. So we deal with Asia-Pacific environmental conflicts. We deal with economics. We have quite a few economists in our particular group, and there's an interest, for example, in things like PES schemes, payment for environmental services. We've got a very strong focus on climate change. We've got a Master of Climate Change, and this allows all sorts of extra investigation into those particular themes. And toxic waste is another important subject that we deal with. So, gender issues, sort of international and national issues, and water management. So basically, we cover a very wide range of different topics. And on that, I think I'll hand over to the next person to take over from me.
Thanks, Daniel. The Master of Environmental Management and Development. Did you want to just talk briefly about that?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the Master of Environment and Development, that is the degree that we use when building on the graduate certificate. It provides an opportunity to, after you've sort of found out whether or not this is an area that you wish to expand on further, the Master of Environment and Development, Management and Development, which you can study both online and on campus, particularly when we move beyond the current sort of situation that we have. is a situation where you can get into the sorts of subjects that I've been describing, including biodiversity conservation and natural disasters and food security and various resource conflict issues. But again, you can apply all sorts of potential investigations through research projects that you can do through this particular degree. And we have various submasters where you can make research a much greater component of what it is that you're doing. But a very important part of what we do is focusing on the capacity to create and provide very good online courses. Now, the Master for Climate Change, in particular, it sort of focuses on issues that we develop in collaboration with other parts of the university, in particular the Fenner School of Environment and Society. And that's a good example of the collaborative approach that's an important part of what we do.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all so much. And I think the other point that's worth emphasising is that at Crawford School, you're actually in the lecture theatre with people of this kind of calibre. So we have top academics who are passionate and world-renowned in their subjects. They're the ones who are in the lecture theatre with you, who are actually teaching you. So it's a very upfront and personalised experience in education. Just as a couple of final points at Crawford School, we have a lot of services, as everyone's touched on tonight, that really wrap around you for the student experience. So we have a pre-sessional academic program, which is a fully online program now available, which really just helps you bridge and prepare for a master's level type academic experience. So looking at research, writing, academic skills, and we do that across those specialty areas. So we have it in economics, in policy and governance, and in environmental studies. So it's a really great program that you can take to really help you equip and be ready to bridge undergraduate, or if you haven't been in study for a while, just to help you get back in sync, and even with online learning, how to tame that beast. As Ben mentioned, we have great national and international internship programs, and especially in this employment environment, Crawford School is very much dedicated to getting that workplace experience for our graduates. We also offer intensive courses, so as well as the semester-long units, we do a summer, spring and a winter-autumn period, so you can dive in and just take an intensive course, which often works really well if you are looking at some other work at the same time as your studies. That just gives you an extra level of flexibility. And Crawford School is very, very fortunate. We are a graduate-only school, and we have our own team of academic skills advisors who are available to do workshops, one-on-one consultations, all sorts of services, again, to just really help you use this as a time not only to develop your knowledge experience, but also your skills in academic work. So they're available, and of course the great team of ANU career advisors can really help you think about where you might like to go and how you'd like to use your study once you've finished up with us. Just to recap that slightly different requirements, I think Ben touched upon this, 4 out of 7 grade point average for the graduate certificates compared to the 5 out of 7 for the master's degrees. So really we can help you determine where you lie in that and give you an entry pathway based on those. And we are, all these 3 people who've seen here tonight are all involved in actually assessing your applications, and they look really closely at what you've done, and we try as far as we can to recognise credit for your prior study so that we can ensure that your time and of course your monies are really well spent with us. We're open now obviously for applications for 2021. If you'd like any further information, crawford.degrees is the go-to email address where you can reach us. And of course, you can look at any of the programs that our 3 academics have talked about tonight via our website. So look forward to the chat. I'm going to stop my sharing, and I'm now going to pass over to Professor Anthony Roberts, who's going to talk about, I think, a new master's degree and a couple of other things. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that. And I'm just going to try and put up my PowerPoint. Let me just do slideshow. Great. So in listening to all of this, I think you're going to be hearing a number of common themes. So let me just draw out two before I go in and tell you a little bit about the school I come from, which is the School of Regulation and Global Governance. So I'm actually a Canberra girl, born and bred, but spent the sort of first 14 years of my career overseas in the US and the UK. And when I thought about coming back to Canberra and joining the College of Asia and Pacific, I think two things really stuck out to me that I wanted to share with the students. The first was that I think in order to understand the 21st century, you really need to understand the Asia and Pacific region. This is no longer simply a region of the world that we live in or an area studies issue. In order to understand global governance and 21st century dynamics in our world, not just our region, I think you need to understand the Asia and Pacific region. And so that's the first reason I think to come to the College of Asia and Pacific. The second thing, which is really about coming to Canberra and coming to the capital, is the extraordinary proximity that we have with all of our federal government departments and also our territory ones. And the level of exchange back and forth, and you can see that from all of the speakers that we've had tonight, this real focus on the region and internationally, but also this deep focus and connection into practice and into policy making. And so with those two general things in mind, when I was looking while overseas as to whether to come back, I thought about, so where do I want to go? And where I ended up coming to was the ANU School of Regulation and Global Governance, which sometimes also goes by the name Regnet. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about Regnet. So Regnet is sort of famous internationally for doing pioneering research and education in regulation and governance. And it was a school that I was really aware of while I was based overseas because it's actually come up with some really novel and internationally renowned approaches to regulation and governance. And it has a reputation for dealing with those at a more general issue in a way that can be applied across multiple different issue areas. And that's because if you think about our mission and what we sort of want to do, is we aim to think about how to improve the governance of major social, environmental and health issues, so major issues of the day. But in particular, what we want to do is work out how to respond to complex and interconnected challenges from the 21st century. So whether they be climate change or disruptive technology or economic inequality or geopolitical contestation, we want to equip people with the skills to be able to help in the governance of complex 21st century problems. And that's really what drives the mission of our school. So why Regnet? Well, we have over 20 years of experience in approaches to regulation and governance of complex problems. I think we have an unparalleled group of scholars and regulatory practitioners that have extraordinary expertise in this area. We, like my other colleagues, we have very strong connections with regulators in the region, in Canberra, locally. And we also offer masterclasses by distinguished practitioners to really give you that kind of blend between academic, pushing yourself academically, which is incredibly important, but also being really connected with practice and knowing how this applies when the rubber meets the road. So with this group of scholars that we have, we've put together, again, like Crawford, graduate programs. And we are very fortunate, like Crawford, to be able to do graduate programs. And we have a range of graduate programs. So we have the graduate certificate in regulation and governance. We also have a master's, which is like that, but beefed up even more, as well as a master's of philosophy, which allows you to spend more time doing writing. And we go through to our doctor of philosophy, so our PhD program. So I'm just going to run you through each of those in turn. So the graduate certificate in regulation and governance is really geared towards taking people who want to understand and navigate an environment of complexity, of risks, of increasing challenges for regulators. And we want you to be able to do that in a way that applies both key Australian ideas of regulatory approaches, but also key international ideas of best practice in regulation. So this is a program that is designed for people who either are currently managing regulatory portfolios or projects, or who plan to do so in the future. But it's also for people who work with regulators and people in governance. So that can be business and industry, it can be agencies, it can be people in the legislature, community actors, and the media. Now, we set this up as a unique project, certificate in Australia, graduate certificate project on regulation and governance. And we originally designed this in close collaboration with Access Canberra, which is the peak regulatory organisation in the Australian Capital Territory, to really make sure that we were doing something that combined cutting edge academic ideas, but in a way that had real practical relevance to people who were doing regulation. Now, it's something that we've been able to attract students not only from all over Australia, but also from the Asia and Pacific region. So it gives you that very international flavour that my other colleagues have also talked about as being one of the huge advantages of ANU and also CAP. That in turn gives you networks and global networks, Asia Pacific networks that you come out of this degree with, because of course you don't just come to work with professors, you also come to have contacts and exchange with each other and with your with peers from around the region. We offer a very stimulating curriculum, but one of the things that is very, very key to what we do is we think you cannot solve any complex 21st century problem through a single discipline. That really, when you're dealing with what are often called wicked problems that are intractable, problems that bring together so many different issues, and I think COVID is such a good example of this, you need to have interdisciplinary skills to be able to move between, if you think about COVID, to what extent is it an economic issue, to what extent is it a health issue, to what extent does it play into issues of geopolitics and other rivalries that are going on. And that interdisciplinarity not only helps you better deal with these complex 21st century problems, but it opens up multiple pathways out of this degree into many other areas, be it directly in government, in NGOs, in research, in think tanks, etc. So our base program, the taster as my colleagues would say, is the graduate certificate. If you want to go up from that, we also have a master's, which is a sort of a bigger and improved version of the same ideas with many more electives, and we've got a lot of new electives, including ones on disruptive technologies, on Indigenous approaches to governance, on compliance and defiance, lots of different options there. But we also offer, for some people who want to spend more time doing writing on a particular project, we offer the Master of Philosophy, which allows you to do a significant writing project as part of your master's. So you may come from a particular government department where you want to work in depth on a particular issue, so it will allow you to do that. But it is also a really nice transition way into a PhD program, either because you know you want to go into a PhD program and you want to take a stepping stone, or because you don't know whether you want to have a PhD program. This is a very good way to try, and if you like, buy and go on to the PhD program, and if you don't like, go away with a Master's of Philosophy at the end of it. As with all of our programs, we start with our core regulatory and governance approaches. So in all of our programs, you'll learn the basics of regulation and government that you can apply to all of these different issue areas. So it's very adaptable. And we'll also teach you interdisciplinary methods and different ideas about the way in which you can equip yourself. Because the one thing I've learned from my career so far is that what I do now is nothing like what I thought I was going to do 5 years ago, is nothing like what I thought I was going to do 5 years before that. And for the generation that's coming up now, that is only going to be even more so. So trying to work out how you can be a very adaptive and adaptable learner and worker, I think is key in the 21st century. We also build this into a Doctor of Philosophy, and this has been a flagship program with us for a long time, where we really want to sort of take people who want to go that extra distance and do a thesis, who want to solve critical problems in the world that deal with social justice and sustainability and well-being. And it's really a program that has many benefits. So we have, I think, fantastic supervisors, a very collegiate approach, a very interdisciplinary approach, and one that again connects us to Canberra, connects us to the country, to the Asia Pacific, and also globally. Now, I won't go into all of the details of our entry requirements. They're much the same as others have said before. The details are also on the website. It's always on a competitive basis, so you need to apply, and we check them on a competitive basis to make sure that that you are the right sort of fit for our programs. But that's because these are really interesting, fantastic programs, and we want to make sure that we have fantastic people that you are coming into the program with and being colleagues with. So that's the basic background about what we do, but I think it sort of rounds out the package that you get from ANU in general, but also the College of Asia and Pacific in particular, that really blends together a focus on 21st century complex problems, on the importance of public policy making and the significance of our region, not just for us, but also for our world.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Anthea. It's absolutely terrific and plenty of good opportunities there as well. We might get into some Q&A. I'm mindful of the time, so we have about 15 minutes remaining. We do have a hand up, which is from Lisa. So I'm going to just allow you, if you still wanted to ask your question, Lisa, you can talk.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise I put my hand.
That's okay. That's fine. Don't worry.
Very
nice to
tech
see
savvy
you
here.
Yeah, no, nice to see you. That's great. I'll mute you now again. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Cheers. Okay, so how are we going? We've answered all the questions in the Q&A. So I'll just throw the floor open. If people have questions, you can either ask them or you can pop something in the Q&A box. And it looks like our panel have been very busy answering all of your questions. So just while we're waiting for other things to come in, just to recap on a couple of the answers that have been going on. So there was a question about the MPP and how that your use of economics in the MPP. So in the MPP, you don't have to have an economics background. It's a non-economics degree, but as Paul has pointed out, we do then have specialist economics degrees as well, so you can sort of take your pick on those.
Yes, Lee, can I jump in?
Yeah, please.
Just while our attendees are thinking of questions they might want to ask us. We have some of the best public policy programs that you can find anywhere in the region. Yeah. But we do not have the best websites that you can find among universities in the region. So what I would like to say to everyone here is, if you can't find the information that you're looking for online, please don't hesitate to send questions directly to us, and including to two really important people here tonight, Cecily, who's hosting, and Liz, and Cecily is in charge of recruitment and marketing for the Australian market. Liz is focused on the international market, and they can answer any questions you have if you can't find them immediately on the website. And I would like to confess that I sometimes have trouble finding information on our website. So please get in touch with people direct about your specific interests, about any questions you have regarding admission, what you can do, what you can't do, and we can either respond by email or set up a Zoom or a Skype chat with you to answer all of your questions.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Ben. I think Ali, you've raised your hand. Did you have a question, Ali?
Yep. I was wondering how much of the economics in the PPE degree is similar to the degree of like economics itself? Like how much do they correspond with each other?
So Ali, did you do an undergraduate PPE?
No, I'm still in high school.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Well, economics does build on itself. So starts off with introductory microeconomics, macroeconomics, and keeps building. The distinction with our master's degrees is that they're very applied and focused on specific sectors and specific real-world challenges. So, for example, the course on the Chinese economy to get a very deep understanding of how that economy works and how it's different to many other economies. We have a course on energy economics. That's one of the courses that I teach. And that's a very practical course, which is looking at the economics of what is a very complicated sector. And we have tutorials every week, and we have a lot of practical examples. So I guess really the best way to think about the master's degrees is that it takes it to a next step. And in particular at Crawford, we focus in on individual sectors and look quite deeply in at them, and also individual economies like the Chinese one. How's that, Ali? Is there any other questions on that?
Yep. Yep. Thanks.
Can I come? Sorry, can I just come in at one thing? So you've got just this wonderful opportunity, and I want to just absolutely second something Ben said here about the kind of expertise in the region. So I've spent most of my career in the US and UK, and I could say that one thing that Australia is just, you know, really ahead on compared to these other parts of the world is really understanding and have the expertise in this region. And then so you've got this extraordinary advantage for doing that, and then you can choose at a master's level about how deeply you go. So we've just heard from Paul that you can really particularly choose a particular sector or a particular type of approach to really go deep, or you can also start to work out this the collision between different approaches. So I was just going to say, as a contrast, one of the ones that we're doing at the moment is a sort of a new area of geoeconomics, which is looking at the collision of economics, security and technology that's arising out of the US-China tech trade wars. And so that gives you kind of these two different ideas about how you can push your graduate studies in these very different ways. So I often think of it as being a T-shaped. So do you want to go in very detail in a particular area, which is one approach for doing a master's, or do you want to branch out and do a T-shape where you're connecting different areas? And one of the things about a really interdisciplinary college like the College of Asia and Pacific is it actually gives you the potential to do both of those things.
Terrific. Thank you. We have Sledge. You have your hand up, so I'm going to go to you now, Sledge. Hi, Sledge, go ahead. Yeah, we're just having a little bit of trouble hearing you. Okay, we might come back to that in a minute. Daniel, there was a question up online for you about talking a little bit more about how the online MEMD fully online program works and the graduate certificate, if you want just to touch briefly upon that. You just need to unmute.
Yes, in the READ group, we've been offering an online component for our courses now for a number of years, and it takes a number of different forms, but I can talk best about the way in which I operate online sort of courses, and I focus in particular on having fairly small groups so that we can have a lot of interactivity. So essentially, and in addition to that, I have a number of different times in the day in which we offer sessions. So essentially, what students are asked to do is to work through the readings and look at presentations and lectures, etc., that have been pre-recorded, and then to come to the sessions and be ready to sort of take those ideas and interact very energetically, both with staff, but also through the use of breakout rooms where students talk to each other. So, I mean, the emphasis I know in the courses that I run, is very much looking at the core ideas and trying to structure the sessions so that there's a lot of interactivity. I mean, effectively, I find that, and this is not an original thought of my own, John Stuart Mill, I think it was one person talked about this, but essentially, until you've put forward an idea to someone who disagrees with you and had to defend your position and develop it in response to someone who's criticizing you, you don't really begin to understand the idea. And so that principle is absolutely central to the way in which I try and design courses, and I know that my colleagues work in the same sort of way. There was also another question that someone asked in the chat room about internships. And Ben referred to internships, and they're a very important part of what we do in the Crawford School. One of there are a number of different subjects that, or courses that allow internships. So one of the ones that I particularly like is Crawford 8019, in which people are able to actually find the place where they'll do the internship, and then they work with a staff member to design a critical academic sort of research context around their work in the particular place. And the idea, I think, with that sort of course is to, one, provide an opportunity for students to get practical experience of what it is like to work in a particular area, but at the same time combine that with the sort of critical insights that come from the courses that you're doing, so that you get a much broader and wider understanding of what's going on. And so it's that interaction of theory and practice that I think that makes internships a really valuable part of an education. And the Crawford School, as I say, places a very strong emphasis on the value of those internships. And I'm just thinking, Ben, who deals with internships on a much wider way than I do, I'm just wondering whether you want to expand on any of that, Ben?
Just unmute, Ben. Yeah.
You're still muted, Ben.
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
One of the beauties of the internships is that they can be constructed around your own interests and around areas in which you'd like to develop professional skills and make professional contacts. So this is something that we really encourage students to, especially those who are at the beginnings of a public sector career, to think about building into their programs. And you might have your own leads and contacts and organisations that you can negotiate an internship with. But if you don't, we have a wide range of partners from across a range of policy sectors that we can introduce you to and help you to negotiate an internship with. You can do it for credit, which means the internship is like an elective course, or you can do it outside of your studies as a not-for-credit elective, and we can still facilitate that, and it will be noted on your transcript. So there are a range of options that are available to you in a range of internships. This is, I think, something that if you decide, once you've decided that, yes, this degree, the economics program, Regnet's graduate program, or whichever program is most suitable to you, then the internships and some of the other work integrated learning components, how that becomes part of an ideal customized study pathway for you, that's something that you can sit down with us and our team and discuss once you're on campus or once you're enrolled in the degree, and we can work through all of those different options with you. But if you'd like to find out more about what options are available before you decide which degree is for you, then you can get in touch with us directly. You can contact our really great marketing team. Cecily and Liz are here tonight. Or if you think that you're leaning towards any one of the degrees that Paul or Anthea or Daniel or myself have introduced tonight, then get in touch with us directly.
Thanks, Ben. Sledge, I'm really sorry that we couldn't hear you, and thank you so much. You've tried to resend that question, so thank you so much for reaching out and trying to connect with us. You mentioned that you've published some essays in organisational sociology and social policy in poverty. I think your first question was sort of around like what kind of specialisation would you choose? And as Ben mentioned, we have 14 specialisations across the MPP, including one in social policy. So I'm just about to type that in the box for you. And certainly we did a masterclass today, which we'll be putting a live link up to, and we had Professor Peter Whiteford talking a great deal around welfare and tax systems. So hopefully you could have a look at that too, and just start to see the flavour of the kind of teaching that's done in both the Master of Public Policy and the Master of Public Administration as well. Any other questions? Oh, we've got a hand up from Ali. Ali, Go ahead, please. Ali, not working. Okay, sorry, Ali. I'm just trying to unmute. That's not working either. So the technology is failing us. I might get you to.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now, Ali. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sorry, my internet went black. Just wondering for the economics degree, how much of it does focus on like more people-based and like kind of, this might be getting too political, but like satisfaction and kind of security and those stuff. Just how much of it?
Well, economics is very much focused on human welfare. So it's a very anthropocentric type of discipline, looking at how we can arrange things, how we can manage our resources so as to provide as good an outcome in terms of human welfare for as many people as possible. And once that's the goal, then one can start looking at all sorts of fields of economics: health economics, labour economics, energy economics, environmental economics. How can we use economics to address various problems? But the human is always at the very heart of the focus of economics. And looking at big issues like inequality also is a big part of our program.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Look, we are right now on 8 o'clock. So I think we'll have to wrap it up here. Just really wanted to thank all of you who've joined us here tonight, obviously from all different sorts of places around Australia and in fact around the world. So I think that's the reach of the Australian National University in Canberra, that it is now a global, truly global institution. So really hope that we see you all here soon. And again, thank you so much to our panel who have just been exceptional and have taught me a lot again tonight. And as Ben said, please reach out to us anytime, and we're here to answer any of your questions. So thank you so much, and hope to hear from you soon. Good night.